There we go. Good. There we go. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's edition of Illogically Speaking. I am your girl, the logical lady, Jossie. Got my host, Vic G. Right, mouth not working. You know, the code
What's
up
up,
here,
man?
man. Got my co-host, Vic G, down there. And as you see, there's another face in another square there. We have the wonderful LeVar joining us this week. We're going to be talking to him a little bit about his wonderful organization he started and everything. So, first off, how you guys doing this week? Just maintaining here. We were just talking about our cold weather up here and our freeze we have going on, and Vic's down there chilling, talking about it's 70 to 60 degrees. So I'm kind of hating on that.
Good Florida life.
Same.
Good Florida life, man.
Did you guys have a good Valentine's Day last week?
All self-love. Yeah, no. Self-love. Gotta love yourself. Gotta love yourself.
I'm not really real hopeful right now because I've not heard any good Valentine's Day stories yet. Like everything has been, I was chilling. Or like what? Does anyone love anyone anymore? What is going on out here? Like,
hey, man.
Love is expensive.
After the first
man.
Valentine's, man.
Did he say love is expensive?
You got one good Valentine.
Yeah, love costs you. Love costs your pocket and a whole lot more too. You got to count the cost. I'm not. Let me just say. Let me clarify. I'm not anti-love. I'm not anti-love at all. But you just got to be careful. People out here being reckless. You can't be reckless with love. That'll get you in trouble in a whole lot of ways.
A whole lot of ways. And like you said, that's expensive in more ways than one. It can cost you a lot more than your money, you know.
Exactly. Tap your pocket and your sanity. I don't have time.
It definitely costs guys more money, more out their pocket than it does us a lot of times. But you know,
and our sanity too. It costs us our sanity too.
Wait a minute. I said, excuse me, sir. Wait a minute. Hold on. It costs us
hey, man,
our sanity as well.
We got company right now.
Wait a minute. No, but I'm just saying. I think as it pertains to that, I think it takes a little bit more of a toll on us because we harp on it a lot longer once we're heartbroken. Like every guy from there on out is gonna feel the wrath of the last guy that broke our heart. You guys, you just pretty much stoic from the jump. So you are what you are. But I think women harp on it a little bit longer than guys. Look at Vic. Vic like, sheesh.
You never seen no heartbroken man before. I referenced Lenny Wilkins.
Oh my God! Oh God!
Girl, you know, that is a heartbroken man if you ever seen one. Now tell me a woman who made a song more heartbroken than that.
I bust the windows out your car.
But he watched TV till the TV went off.
Right. It was a different type of heartache. It was a different type of heartache.
It was. I'll give you that.
I was with Jasmine, though. I mean, I understand Jasmine's pain, but Lenny,
I do. I think we just love differently, and it takes its toll a little differently. I'll say that. I'm not going to say harder on either party. I think we just love differently and get over love differently in most cases. You know?
I'll take that.
So, what, Vic?
No, I just said I agree. I told you we got company. I'm on my best behavior today. I'm on good behavior today.
Look, we got put your little straighten up your little tie a little bit.
Oh man.
No, LeVar, tell us a little bit about yourself. I read that you started like getting into ministry at like 14-ish. Were you? Did you grow up in did you grow up in the church? Were you that kid that was in church Sunday to Sunday?
I definitely was. I definitely did grow up in the church. Shout out to the historic Shiloh Baptist Church, 19th Northwest. Yes, I mean, I was a church kid growing up, like parents, grandparents, the whole nine. So I mean, I've seen church in good, bad, and ugly. Yes, and everything else in between. But yeah, I got started early, man. I was 14, and just sensed that there was this burden and this weight, this call to do something with my life, you know, specifically with as it related to ministry. But it's always been different for me. I've never felt a traditional calling, so to say. I've always felt a very community-based call over my life. I've always wanted to be a bridge between God and people. And I think sometimes in religion that gets lost. Yeah. And so, you know, being a bridge has been my goal and my push.
Now, being that young, and especially in this area, or just anywhere, at that age, and that's a very awkward age for a lot of people.
Mhm.
Was it hard for you, like trying to be? I mean, first of all, we already know the stigma that preachers' kids and church kids get, that they the freakiest ones or they the wildest ones. So, was it hard trying to not be that, trying to not be the bad kid, or were you just naturally, that good kid?
Yeah, I mean, I stayed out of trouble for the most part, just in general. Like even outside of the growing up in the church, just the way I'm wired. I grew up as an introvert in a lot of ways, so I wasn't like I was talking to a friend of mine the other day about men who have like battle scars from when they were boys and they rode the bike into the wall, and I ain't got none of that. I got one scar on my whole body, and that's it. Because I wasn't that kid that was out and about like that. So. I think that made it a little bit easier. But I mean, I think the challenge for me was, trying to still be a kid, like at 14, right. And then I've always felt older than I am. Like I'm that kid that had the old soul, but still, trying to be 14, like be a teenager, do dumb stuff, make stupid mistakes and still be all right with it and not be hyper religious. That was and I had my phase where I definitely went through that. But I tell you, when I came out of that space and looked back, I was like, bro, yeah, we can't do that no more. That's not where it's at. This is not cool. And so I think that was the biggest challenge for me, like how to still be a kid, how to still be a teenager. And friends and family helped me keep that grounded, I think, for the most part.
Well, you spoke about like your family being heavy in church, so I would think that they were more like the traditional church, that we know of. Everything's very strict and straight up. It's the Bible and Bible says, and thou shalt not do nothing.
Right.
So how did you kind of? I'm not gonna say break away from that, but how did you, being raised that way, being in a home that way, how did you kind of change that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that part of it was good. My family wasn't like, again, super religious.
Okay.
They were always, not Bible beaters, Bible believers, not right. Bible beaters. And definitely, and I think there's a big difference. And so like, even, my mom, who I love, I'm a mama's boy. I love my mom dearly. She, encouraged me to embrace all of the components of myself, all of the pieces of my life, all of the things that were, available to me. I was a kid. I wasn't the sports kid. I was the arts kid. And so getting exposure to all of that and embracing that and trying different things in that venue. And, as I got older and began to have even my own real relationship with God, I began to be clear in terms of what that should look like coming out of me. Like it shouldn't be, it's not religiosity, it's spirituality, it's personal and close connection with him. And then how that looks and how I treat people, like on a real level. How do I treat my neighbors? How do I treat the people that piss me off? Like that's how you know what real faith, real Christianity looks like. And so I stepped into that, and the more I got comfortable with it, the more I, began to embrace me and embrace that understanding of my Christianity and my faith. Like, and I think I think there are a lot of people that connect with that understanding of what faith is. And it's not abandoning Bible. It's not abandoning God. It's not even abandoning church, but it's holding close to the important things and doing it the way that God said, not the way somebody is translating it for you, finding out for yourself.
That's big, because I was kind of segueing to my next question. We're getting into this place where a lot more people are aware and more woke and have more consciousness of just religion in general, or what they think religion is or what it's not. And and especially on social media, you have a lot of people that are anti-Christianity and anti-Bible, and they want to dispute everything in the Bible and dispute everything that you believe. How do you deal with those people? Because they definitely come at me, and I don't even consider myself super Christian. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things. And I find myself getting angry, trying to defend what I believe. So how do you handle that, of those people?
I think two things. I think one is to just know and understand that's going to happen. Like if you're living a real faith, that's going to happen. You're going to be attacked, whether that is a faith, a Christian faith, a Muslim faith. If you are a person of faith, you're going to attract that type of attention. And even in the Bible, Jesus talks about it. Like, they hated me. So, yeah, of course, they're going to hate you because you're mine. And so one, I think having the mindset that people are going to be that way, I've come to understand every conversation is not for me to get into. Every defense is not for me to make. Yeah, I'm just if we can have conversation where we are genuinely exchanging ideas and thoughts and our understanding of scripture or theology or who God is, cool. But there's some people who are just dead set in their way and their understanding and are not open to a conversation and then also get defensive in a very aggressive way. I'm not going to have a conversation with you because at that point, it's no point. Like you believe what you believe, and cool, I'm not gonna knock you. That's your choice. Do what you do. But one, I'm not the argumentative type, just in general. But then two, I also know, pre God, LeVar was not the type of person that you want to get into that conversation with. So that I don't go back to that and then cause that individual pain and suffering, I just walk away from certain conversations. Certain conversations I'm just not gonna have. I'll give you a great example. I made a comment on social media the other day, and I said, I personally don't have a liking for Clubhouse. Now, on LeVar Allen Jones's Facebook page, LeVar Allen Jones can say whatever LeVar Allen Jones wants to say on his page. I had a brother that approached me and was like, yo, we'll explain why. I'm sorry, I'm grown. Explain. I don't have to really explain nothing to you. I don't like it. That's it. And he then challenged and said, well, as a mentor of young black males, you really need to explain. Yeah, Vic, I was making that exact same face, bro. I was making the exact same face that Vic just made. Like, what just happened? I'm sorry. And so I could have done a whole thing. Why? Like, I'm not going to expend that. I got 15 other things on my priority list, bro. You are like number 1,033 and a half. I don't even have time. And so I think the same thing with faith. There are people that you can share the gospel with. There's people you can share the love of God with, and they are receptive and open. But if you're not, cool. I mean, and Jesus, it talks about it in the Bible. Shake the dust off your feet, keep it moving. I'm not going to stress it. I ain't going to worry about it. You don't want to listen? Cool. There's 3,000 other people that will if you don't want to. So that's cool.
That's dope.
Yeah.
I think
we're proud.
Right, indeed. I think we're in this weird place, and especially with so much access because of social media and things where people expect everything to look the same. Like a mentor should look like this. A church person should look like this. A married couple should look like this. A single woman should look like this. I think they place these boxes on what we're supposed to be, and anything that does not fit in that box, they say it's not genuine or it's not real, or you can't be a church person if you have a drink, or you can't go to church if you know what I'm saying, if you dress like this, or you can't be a mentor if you don't have, you know what I mean? It's just a lot of things that they expect these boxes to look like, and these ideals of what everything is supposed to look like. But it's almost impossible to please everyone and fit into all, because everyone has their box of what it should look like. Like my box of what a religious person looks like is not the same as Vic's. You know what I mean? So people get so wrapped up in what they think something should be and should look like, and that's where a lot of the messages get lost in people.
Yeah, and I think we missed the opportunity to see each other. Like I think that's one of the biggest things. When the movie Avatar came out, the whole line in the movie, "I see you," like the connection with each other, on a human level, which supersedes any other label that you have. A Christian, a person of faith, black, white, gay, straight, rich, poor. You are a human. And I think we miss so many opportunities to just see each other on a humanity level and to be able to respect one another on a human level. You are my fellow human being, no matter what other things make us different. And we miss opportunities to connect with each other. We miss opportunities to see the beauty in somebody that is a mentor that doesn't have kids. We miss the opportunity to see the beauty of somebody who's a Christian and is covered in ink. And you miss the moment to be able to say, like, yo, I see the humanity in you, but I also see the God in you as well. And I think when we stop trying to be God and just be ourselves, like, we get to see more of that. But that requires you gotta be intentional about not trying to be who you're not.
It's a beauty in not understanding something.
That's good.
You understand? It's a beauty in not understanding something, because it can develop a conversation now.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't want a conversation. They want to be right. They
Yeah.
want to be like, they don't care about the conversation. They just,
I said
so
that
they
all the
don't
time.
listen to what you're saying. So now it becomes a circular conversation, and you feel like, all right, we bite where we started from when we said hello. So it comes to that. No one wants to understand the beauty in somebody disagreeing with you. Like, it's a beautiful thing.
We're such oxymoron. We're such an oxymoron. We preach individuality, and we want everyone to be different and no one to be the same, but yet we expect everyone to be the same. It's the craziest thing. Like, we expect all women to think alike. We expect all guys to think this way and have this belief, but we also want, oh, I'm my own woman, I'm my own man, and I'm not like this person, I'm not like that person. But then when they're not like that person, they get labeled certain things in certain ways. So it's just, we just are, I think, as a people, just a walking contradiction every day. And how we say, what we say versus what we do, and versus what we preach. Like, I laugh because these kids, we give them this thing of them trying to be different. You know, when they started getting the piercings and wearing the colored hair and dressing this way, and they were doing it initially to be different, but now they all look exactly the same. So it's like, which one is it? Are you being different, or are you fitting into what everyone else is doing? And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with, but don't even know that they're struggling with it. You know what I'm saying?
You can't fight nature. You can't fight nature. It's human nature for us to come together and develop culture. That's all it is. When you see anybody, a group of people doing the same thing becomes culture. That's all it is. So that's human nature. Anywhere you go on planet Earth, you're going to see human beings practicing culture. That's just what it is. And the more we fight to be different, the more we find out that we're the same. And that's the crazy part about it.
So, LeVar, tell us, you have this wonderful, what is it? It's a nonprofit, correct?
Yes.
A nonprofit. It's Project Goodman. And so tell me a little bit about it and what made you start it and how we got started and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I've been, my work over the last 20 plus years has been in youth work, and it's been either in youth ministry or in nonprofit youth work. But I've always worked somebody else's program. I work for Boys and Girls Clubs, Greater Washington, work for Big Brothers, Big Sisters. And these are great organizations, great work we've done, but it's always been somebody else's. And so I always knew at some point I needed to start my own, taking the experiences and the knowledge that I have and run it with my own. I also knew I had a great love for mentoring young brothers, partially rooted in my own personal upbringing and the relationship I have with my father, which is an ongoing, developing one. I've always lived under the same roof with my father. We have not always been on the same page, have not always seen eye to eye, have not always been close. It was so bad when I was growing up. I used to have a friend of mine whose dad was not in the house, and we used to trade stories who had it worse, he with an absentee father or me with what I called a present absentee father. Because there were literally times I felt, we were in the same house, but we were not connected, didn't know each other. And so a part of that really, helped me to be able, again, we're talking about seeing people, to see young brothers who are in those similar situations. And so I've always just had an affinity, just always drawn and connected to two young brothers. My two godsons are here now. I locked them in my room so that we would have quiet doing the recording. But yeah, so I knew that those two things would go together. When I was at the Boys and Girls Club, I started a program called Goodman, which was designed just to create space for young brothers to come and share, come and learn, come and grow. And so when the timing, everybody had time in the last year to do stuff, to create, to do the stuff that's been on your list for 50 years that you haven't touched, the book, the weight loss, the whatever. And this was at the top of my list. So I finally just said, all right, bet, let's go. We're going to do this. And I started it just as a project. It was just going to be something that I did. And a good friend of mine, she asked, she said, why are you not making this your nonprofit? And I didn't have an answer for it. I couldn't say what for this reason, for that reason. I was like, I guess I need to go ahead and do what I need to do. And so we became incorporated in DC on Christmas Eve, 2020. And man, it's been like I turned on a water faucet and the water's just been running and I can't turn the faucet off. Like the joint is broke. And God has just been like super amazing with resources and people and volunteers who have stepped up. Project Goodman is all about creating space for young brothers to belong to a supportive community, believe in their own abilities, and become men of purpose. That's our whole focus. Of course, things are crazy now with being in virtual, but we did kick off our virtual programming with 15 young brothers, elementary through high school, on last Thursday. It was so dope, so amazing. One of the things that we're doing differently is just, you said, you hit on it when you were talking about looking at mentors differently. We created this concept called the mentoring circle. So we're sort of doing away with the traditional mentoring is one-to-one or one adult to maybe 3 or 4 young people. In this program, we're doing what we call the mentoring circle. A mentoring circle has 7 brothers from elementary through elder. So that means every circle has an elementary student, a middle student, a high school student, an 18 to 26-year-old, and then 3 other adult men in different levels, all the way up to our seniors, 55 and up.
Oh, that's dope.
And in that circle, those brothers are going to build trust, build community, and again, create spaces for young brothers to belong, believe, and become. And we think that through the experience that everybody brings, because in this point, there's no one leader. Every brother in that circle is accountable to each other, which means that even the high school student is now accountable to the elementary school student. That does 2 things: levels the playing field and make sure that everybody knows we got each other. But then also, what does it say to the elementary school student to be able to wield leadership like that at a young age? If I'm in the 5th grade and I now know how to practice what it means to have my brothers in my circle listen to me, because what I have to say is important. What I have to say matters. What does that do to his mind and his development as a leader, as a Black man in a society that tells Black men to shut up and dribble? Like, what does it do to his psyche? You know, and so we hope to accomplish some good things in those circles, see those circles grow. We're going to start with 6 circles this year, and hopefully, if this science experiment goes well, we'll add some more going into next year as well.
Oh man! First off, let me say thank you.
Right. Amen.
Thank you.
What's up?
For so long, there was a space absent for young Black boys in America. Thank you. Thank you so much, because that is a neglected demographic in America that nobody has figured out, that if these boys don't succeed, America can't succeed
at all.
So thank you. And that's a brilliant idea of having the circle.
Indeed. That's what I was like. It's a new concept. Dope. It seems so simple, but it's just something that it just isn't done. And I think that we definitely need our voice to see our men succeed on different levels. You know what I mean? So we so used to a little boy seeing an old 40-year-old guy coming in with his suit and everything, but they don't see that in between. They don't see that college student that's struggling and the struggles that they go through. They don't see that high school kid that's racking his brain out because he has to take the SATs and all of that stuff. So I think that's a dope idea. Like I'm so behind that. That's something you really came up with something with that one. That's really dope.
And I think to Vic's point too, you know, when you were talking about the beauty of understanding people, like for them each to look at each other and to see the beauty of struggle, like not to think, you know, again, like you said, we don't just go from middle school to 40 and successful. It's a whole lot of steps in between there. And for these younger brothers to see that middle space, you know, for the older generation to look back and be empowered, to know you're still here, you still got plenty to give, and to be able to gain strength from the younger ones, you know, there's a circle that feeds itself. And, you know, this is what other communities outside of ours have done for generations. They feed their own community. They feed their own circle so that it gets everything that it needs. Everything that those brothers are going to need is in that circle. From the elementary to the elder, everything that they need will be in that circle for them to grow and to develop. And then they take that mindset out into college and into school and into the workplace, into adult life and into financial spaces. And they understand the power of community. And that's what we want. We want them to create villages where people that look like them, again, can belong, believe, and become.
Where do you get your members from? Like, especially now being virtual, you can't just go into a rec center anymore and just say, hey, you will come check out my program. So how have you been, getting your members and everything?
So I must have done something right in the last 7 years. Well, between 2012 and 2019, I was blessed to serve as the director of teen services at the FBR Branch Boys and Girls Club at the Arc in Southeast DC.
Mm-hmm.
I've never worked anywhere for 7 years, and so I think that this says a lot about that space, that community, the things that we built. A third of the young brothers that are part of Project Goodman came from those relationships with the Boys and Girls Club. Yeah. And what I appreciate, in some cases, it was the young men themselves who stepped up. In other cases, it was parents who saw trust in who trusted me based on our relationship to be able to say, hey, yeah, you did great the first time, let's do it again. And then to go and recruit. So we've got parents who have gone to do the recruiting, for us to help us get the word out to other families who have young men that need someone and need a space like ours to be in. And so we've done that. And of course, used the power of social media, aggressive on our social media and building, our network, my personal network, the network of others. I'm, again, just crazy blessed that based on that network, we built out a great board of directors. We have an advisory council. We have a leadership team or staff. So we've got, 25 or so volunteers in those different groups, none of whom are taking a check. Like nobody's taking checks from Project Goodman yet. I actually have a meeting today where we're going to talk about building the financial sustainability of the organization. But all of those networks then come into bear as well in terms of helping to recruit. And to the point now we've got a wait list for young men, which is, in youth workspace. Wait list is a double-edged sword. It's a good thing to have because it speaks to the need. But now we know we just got to work that much harder so that we can open up more spaces for young men to be a part.
It just lets you know that people want help.
What is the biggest issue that you're seeing with the young men these days? Like as far as working with them, what are the issues? What is the biggest thing that you are having to overcome in terms of the young people today?
Yeah, so here's my philosophy. Like I said, I've been in youth work for 22 years, so I've seen a lot. In that space and time, I've come to learn two things. Young people aren't broken; they don't need to be fixed. What they need is somebody to walk alongside them as they develop and as they grow. One of the greatest needs is the need of people walking with young people as they grow and develop. But that scares most adults because walking with people as they develop is messy, dirty, time consuming, frustrating, and all the other adjectives that you can add, not because there's anything wrong with the young person, but because the process of growth and development is messy, dirty, frustrating, etc. And it requires time. It requires, what you said some earlier, we're talking about the way we listen. I've been on this harp with my young people the last couple of years and teaching them about active listening. Active listening is listening to understand and not listening to respond. We need adults who are not so in a hurry to share their whole story. And this is what we told the adult members who are coming into Project Goodman. I need you to check your adultism, your ageism, and your stringent definition of mentoring at the door. Because as you step into this space, this is not the time for us to give us your resume and your whole life story. I want you to listen. Young people need someone who will listen to them.
Absolutely.
Because in listening and in being heard, it empowers you to embrace yourself, which is what a lot of our young brothers are not equipped to do. They don't know who they are. They don't know how to embrace who they are. And so they latch on to other identities that look right, feel right. It's like walking around in a dark room and, okay, well, this looks like this fits me. I'll try this on. That's not you, bro. That's not who you are. But you need somebody to walk with you with the lights on to be able to say, my two godsons who were here had a chance to take them soup shopping for the first time. right before the pandemic. I'm mad because they ain't been able to rock these suits nowhere since. Because we went straight into the pandemic, like right after they left after they picked up the suits. So they just hanging in the closet. But I tell you, the experience of hanging out with them and watching them try on suits and get fitted and get the tailor and the measurements and all of that, watching their face with something so simple. You know, and so when people say, well, these young people, it's these old people, it's us.
Who made these young people? Who made these young people? Like
exactly, and made the environment that makes it difficult. So we harp on kids for making choices of survival in an environment that we created. We created the environment that made it easy for guns to end up in Southeast DC, but then we harp on the kids for making the choice to do it. And yeah, the choice is a bad choice, but what the hell else do we expect them to do? We created the environment for them to make these choices. And unless you're going to fix the environment, shut up.
Right.
Like, that's what I want to tell adults. Like, everybody gets to, especially after, an unfortunate death of a young person in a violent manner, here come all of the folks with all of the experience and all of the wisdom, and they want to share. If you're not fighting to either walk alongside young people or fighting to change the environments that we as adults have created, find yourself a seat and sit down in the corner and time out.
What I find interesting, because I have 4 sons. 2 teenagers, both graduating, and I know all of their friends. Their friends look at me, they call me pops, whatever.
Yes, sir.
So I see what you're saying when you say they need a space to speak freely. If young men don't have spaces to speak freely, then comes the stoic and all of these repressed emotions. They don't know how to speak freely. So when I hear people say young black men have communications problems, it's not that they have a communicating problem with you. You have a listening problem.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you don't give them the space to speak. And young black boys need spaces to speak, just to express themselves. Half of these cats don't want to be in the streets.
No.
But that's the only place they can get heard.
Yeah.
That's the only place where people will listen to what they're saying. When you go on their Instagram, when you go on their social media, their Twitter, that's the only place they can be heard. So, you know what I'm saying? We have to create spaces for young black men to be heard and to express who they really are. So again, thank you, brother.
I think it changed a little. Like in the past, maybe 20, the generation of parents, like 20 years or so ago, where they just stopped talking to their kids. Like, I grew up, I used to wrap my parents up. Like, I used to wrap my mother up, like, to the point where it was, we gonna have quiet time today, okay? Like, you know what I mean? Like, wrap them up. And parents now, it's like they work so hard and they're trying to make these amazing homes that they miss out on a lot of great time with their kids to just do simple things like talk. And like I say, like you said, it's a lot that these kids have to say, but they have no one to say it to, no one that's listening to them. And I think that's a very big thing. Looking back, like you had like Tupac was like only 24 years old and said a lot.
Right.
Look, I just watched Judas and the Black Messiah, and Fred Hampton was only 21.
21.
And was that impactful and that powerful. And that's just something we don't see anymore. We don't have these giving these boys and these people, our people, just that platform. I mean, just think, Michael X wasn't that old. You know what I mean? They weren't the old ancient, super wise men. They just had something that they wanted to say, and they knew how to say it, and they wanted to say it. And we're not giving, I don't think that we're giving kids in general, not even just boys, just kids in general, that space to be heard. Yeah. And that's where a lot of the disconnect is. Like, they just don't have that platform for it. So it's dope what you're going to see that. So.
It's power in it. I remember 3rd grade. I went to Burville Elementary in Northeast DC, and in 3rd grade, my teacher said, "All right, you're gonna give excerpts of the I Have a Dream speech for the Black History program." And so you go through the whole thing, you do the memorization, all of that. And so, like, y'all can't tell from sitting down, but I'm 5'2.5". So at that time I was much shorter. So there's this little 2-step riser thing. You step up on that to the podium. Mm-hmm. She said to me, the most important thing, not even memorizing the speech or how to deliver it, when you stand up there, wait until you have everybody's attention before you speak. My mother as my witness, I stood there, third grade, big head and bowl, for almost 2 minutes, waiting for everybody.
Because you know they're
to
not
listen.
like third grade. The kids are not going to sit there quietly.
Right.
Wait, they like talking
Yep.
to you. That's dope.
You had the whole school. So you got the pre-K babies, you got the parents, somebody, grandmama in the back to eat chicken she brought, unraveling the foil and all of that. She said, wait until you got everybody's attention. And that moment was always so transformative for me, because I recognized like what I have to say matters. And you're going to listen. You're going to listen to what I have to say. And we got to give space for our young people to have those experiences so that they know, yeah, what you have to say is important. And we're going to listen to what you have to say.
I don't think part of it is adults need to understand that they're not always right and they don't always have the right answer. And I think that's how we come at the kids. A lot of times they tell us something. And like you said, you have to check your age at the door, because we want to tell them a story. Well, back when I was that age, we ain't do it like that. And if you did this, we would throw hands, or you know what I mean? How we did. And y'all not real men like we were back in my day. Like, all right, whatever. And that's disheartening to a kid to hear that, oh, well, you're not as good as I was, or you're not doing it as well as I did. But like, ultimately, look at you then. Like, where are you? Like, what made your way so great that we turned out this way? So and I think a lot of adults don't do that. We literally make it seem like our way was it. That was the only way that we did it, and it had to be done. And everything about how they doing it now is wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where that switch came from, because it used to be a time where we wanted better for our children than for ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It wasn't never a competition of which era was better, because we always knew the children was going to make another era better. They were supposed to make a better era. So I don't know where this old man get off my lawn type behavior comes from in our community, because that's basically what it is. We look at young people and act like we built the greatest monuments and they'll never build any other. Like that's the arrogance of our age is just sometimes.
They making monuments with 3D printers now. You know, stuff that we could never.
At these kids and their technology, these kids, man, listen, I got a 3-year-old downstairs right now that can work his tablet better than I can. Like, he tells me something's wrong, I'm like looking at it like for like 2 minutes. Like, wait a minute, he's not move. I'm like, oh, okay, you got it. We don't give that credit though, you know. So
Don't embrace our youth, man.
And boys and girls. I think the relationships in both. First, I guess the guys got to get themselves together, which we've always said, but the girls have to get themselves together as well, and the women have to take responsibility for that. But then we have to get them together to understand that they do need each other and they do need to work together. It's so much of a big divide. I think every day I'm on social media, there's some big divide between men and women. You guys can't do this, or the women don't do that, or the men today didn't do this. And it's such a big divide that it almost looks like we don't like each other. We hate each other, and we literally come together every 10 months, do like this, make a baby, and then we separate. Like, that's literally what it's looking like now to these kids. And it's disheartening. And we need to change that narrative as well, that we're both necessary. We're both needing to be involved, but people don't want that, you know?
And I think that's how we get balance. Like, that's why, you know, when you have homes that, and I recognize that in my own development as a child, you know, where my relationship with my father was not as strong as I wanted it to be. You know, at this point now, I understand and I can say he was the best father he knew how to be.
That's what a lot
of us come to that like that takes a whole lot of. That takes a lot to be able to come to that space, you know, because I think all of us want the parent that we think we deserve. And when you don't get that, you know, it's just like, right. You have like that in your mind, like you want that, or you see your boy, his father, you go to their house for the weekend, you're like, man, that's cool. That must be, but we don't have that, you know? And so I think in homes where either that's missing from the father side or the mother side, we got to figure ways to provide, you know, things that cover those gaps. So mentors are, you know, are great ways to do that. Miss Lucille that lived up the street, you know, was grandma to like 13 people, and probably half of those people didn't have a grandparent in their life. I had a preschool teacher that stepped in as my adopted grandmother when my maternal grandmother passed. Like, those moments where people just step in, like it doesn't take a lot. We think that change takes more than it really does. Just show up.
Right.
Just show up for people. Like there's power in showing up.
Now you spoke. Go ahead, Vic. Go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say it's just the genuineness of knowing that somebody cares for you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That kids are quick to pick up on that energy.
Yes,
so
sir.
just that knowing that they feel a genuine love from you, of concern, are you okay?
Yeah.
Like just ask a child, are you okay? And listen if they tell you that they're not, or if they tell you that they are, still listen. Okay.
You spoke on your dad being present, but as what you call it, not present. And I think that's a space that a lot of people miss. There are a lot of kids that definitely have 2-parent homes, and we just think that they're okay because there's a dad around. But dad being around isn't dad always being there. And a lot of kids there's a gap between you have those kids that don't have a father and everybody takes to them and wants to help them and mentor them. But then you have those that do have a dad in the home. And then you have to deal with the ego of the dad being in the home where this other guy wants to come and help out. So I think that is a small little space for some kids out there that they have dad in the home, but he's not there. But then how do I go to someone else when I have my father here? You know what I mean? How does that work? There's a big disconnect there. And there's a lot of kids that go through that too, because it's a lot of parents that are together, but they're doing their thing.
And I've had some guys who I mentored. Actually, one of my little brothers, I've known him now for, probably 10 plus years. And he was a member of the Boys and Girls Club, just turned 20 yesterday. Wow. His family is a dope example of that. Both parents married together in a home, healthy marriage, healthy family. And yet and still, this father made space for a male mentor in his son's life. And has said to me on several occasions, which I think just takes a real man to be able to come to me and just say, man, listen, I appreciate you for being what Gary needed. I appreciate you for being what my son needed. Like, what type of maturity from a brother like does that take, again, to be able to see that, to know I'm not here to, and I tell all my kids, I'm not here to try and replace, if dad's not in the picture, I'm not here to try and replace your dad. If dad is in the picture, I'm not trying to get in between you. I'm here to be another part of the puzzle. You know, and that it takes the village. It literally does. It takes the village to be, the support that our kids need, and they need as much as they can, so that again they can be in the right space to grow.
As a father of boys, you have to have more love for your sons than you have for your ego. You understand what I'm saying? Because after a while, you understand this. The message you've been saying to them since they can hear your voice as a father, and after a while, it gets redundant. So you have to understand that even though you're their father, you might not be their role model.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So you have to allow them to figure out themselves. You know what I'm saying? So that's
everybody's not a threat to you, and no one can be you, and they're not trying to replace you. And like you said, not trying to replace you, and they shouldn't be a threat to you. There should be a space for someone, because everyone is not just mother, father. That's it. Like, it takes way more. And again, we were raised that so many more people did raise us. You had the people in your neighborhood. You had Miss Hattie down the street. You had the neighbor. You had your teachers that genuinely cared, that genuinely talked to your mother. Like, you did now, they literally email because you don't do an assignment, but you don't know about this kid's mental. Like, my teachers called me and was like, something's off. You know what I'm saying? Like, she good, but we don't have that. And I think nowadays we have this is my kid. That's it. They only need me and daddy. And as long as they got mommy and daddy, that's all they need. And that's, to me, that's just unrealistic. That's a wild reality, though, Because
when they get out into the adult world and can't make relationships and can't socialize and can't connect with people, then, the kids left, and they're the ones who suffer in that type of a situation. So it's incumbent upon us. We got to, it teaches them, again, that there are other people, that they are a part of something bigger and something greater. And that's definitely one of the things I want, Project Goodman to be reflective of, that is something bigger. It's not just us. That you are a part of something where people do see you, and people, will help you and walk with you if you embrace that. You got to be open to accepting that. But there are people that are out there that will, support you in what you do.
That's all these kids want, is to be heard. Like, literally, that's all they want, to be seen. Not even always just heard. They want to be a person. They want to know that they exist in this crazy big old world out here, that there's something other than just a tax return or a stimulus check. You know what I mean? So many of these kids, they just don't have a voice or a face.
And even the teenagers who oftentimes put up that front, and see, adults don't see past, too many adults don't see past that first layer of the tough skin or what have you, or the wall. But even underneath all of that, teenage boys and teenage girls want exactly what you just said. They want to be seen, they want to be heard. And the moment that they know that they can trust you to do both, man, like you said, you're gonna get that. All right, we're gonna take a break. We're gonna come back to this in a minute, because we've been going for 3 hours now. But that's the dope experience that they want, man. They just want that.
You're hitting a dope space, though, with dealing with the ones that are like 18 to 24. That's a demographic that we totally miss out on. It's like once they get out of high school, well, there you go, world. It's yours now. We forget that they have issues that they're dealing with. We forget that they out here struggling. And if they don't go to college, they're seen as a slum now. But nowadays, college isn't the thing for everybody. And that's just a space where nobody cares about kids anymore. They're still kids to me. 24, I was still a kid. I don't know about you all, but I was definitely still a kid at 24. But 18 to 24, we don't give them much of anything. It's like once you get out of high school, that's it. You out into the world now, and we don't care what you have to say. We don't care how you feel. And it's a dope space that you're filling up there too. I think they have probably more to say than the youngins. You know what I mean? They probably got more on their mind, because they dealing with coming up from being the youngin to now they got to transition into becoming an adult. And that's a hard transition with no kind of guidance and leadership. You're just figuring it out on your own, literally.
And that's one of the groups that matters to, one of the things I didn't mention, another part of what we're doing is what we call the Storyteller Initiative. So we talked about these mentoring circles that we're having. And so they're going to have all these great experiences, and that's great. But a part of our responsibility is now to help change the narrative of Black manhood within the world. Other people have tried to tell our story. They suck at it. We want to tell our own. And so what we did was we went back and I got 3 young adult men who all came through the Boys and Girls Club during my time, who are now in their 20s, who all now happen to be into videography. So I said to them, I said, all right, here's what we're going to do. You are going to be our storytellers. You're going to be assigned a circle, and your job is to create a short film about that circle. Talk about those brothers in the circle. Talk about who they are. Talk about their experiences, so that people can look at that and say, oh, that's who Black men are. Yes, and be able to see 7 different type of Black men, that we are not a monolith. We don't all look the same. We don't all play basketball. We don't all rap. We don't all have tattoos. Like, there's different levels of who we are. And so, that was dope. And I was like, that's great. But to your point, I said, well, I don't want to just extract a product from these brothers. I know them. I've invested time with them, and I see where they are in their young adult lives. Did not necessarily go the college track, are figuring some things out, but they've launched and started their own. Each of them have their own videography companies. They all started their own hustle, and they moving, shooting music videos, all of that. I said, well, let's invest in them as well. So now we've spread this initiative out so that we've got a series of workshops just for these 3 guys, surrounding them with resources and help. And not only we're dealing with, the first one is this coming Tuesday, and we're dealing with them as the shooter. How do you take your own personal experiences and put them to good use, positive or negative, to tell somebody else's story? For example, one of the young brothers, his father died 2 years ago, and he is still in the process. They had a challenging relationship, but he's in the process of still grieving. you gotta grapple with that before you come and tell the story of these 7 brothers. I want you to understand the power of that grief and that experience and that relationship with your dad, because that ought to flavor how you tell this story of this circle of these young brothers, your understanding of your own experience. So, that's you hit on the head. Like, that age group is so critical, that 18, 24, 26, because they're figuring so many things out, whichever path you choose. I got, guys who've gone and I got guys who've gone in, college, work, military, all of them have some of the same needs across the board.
Mm-hmm. I think we have to give them value. Like we always say our kids are our future and all that good stuff, but I think we need to definitely place value in the ones that are transitioning into adults, because those are the ones that are going to affect us immediately. You know what I mean? So just you investing back in those boys and their video dreams, that's just giving them and what they're doing value, and that's what we don't do. So
yeah, be validated. We have to validate the brilliance of a young Black mind. And we have to feed it, because one thing I learned about young Black boys is if you can't offer them a solution and help along the way as far as resources on how to get things done, they will tune you out. You are just chatter to them. Mm-hmm. So you have to not just like feed them BS of, yes, you're good, you're great, I'm listening. You have to actually provide them with something where they can put in their energy and get something out, and they can see that. Once they can see that happening, the confidence that you see growing young Black boy is something unheard of. It's something unseen before. Once they get that confidence and that faith that one person, it don't matter if it's just one person, believed in them enough to invest in what they're doing.
I asked a question, I think a couple weeks ago, and it kind of opened my eyes a little bit. I asked, do you think that the Million Man March was a successful event, and how has it, if it has it helped or hurt anything recently or just since then, besides seeing those men together? What did the Million Man March accomplish for you? Be honest here, because I mean, a lot of people said really actually nothing other than seeing those men together, and I think that's what a lot of these organizations do, is they literally just put this big front on and face, and that's it, and you don't see anything else from it, and it doesn't accomplish anything. But
so here's what I think. I wasn't there at the march. I remember watching, on the news. I think I stayed home that day and watched with my mom, and we had some conversations. It was 90. That was 95.
95.
Yeah, so I was
96, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
No, so it was October 95. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was 15. So old enough to have some of those conversations. I think it. Do I think it had a lasting effect? I think in the sense of it's now lifted as a picture of what Black male unity can look like. I think it shows to inspire people. Do I think that there is still work today that's continuing from then? Not necessarily. I think there are probably some organizations or relationships or collaborations and partnerships that maybe were sparked or started as a part of the Million Man March, because of this march. Hey, we're going to do this. And maybe a group of brothers that caught the bus from Philly, to DC, maybe they started a nonprofit. Maybe they're still, I think some of those things are in place, but they're in terms of a national platform and message now. But I think that's what's missing from a lot of justice work, civil rights work, that there's not one national movement. I think the civil rights era, there was one major national movement. You had little offsets, but there was one major national movement, and that spoke. We don't necessarily have that now. I think there are pros and cons to that. I think that in some cases it's great, because you may have an NAACP working over here, or National Action Network working over here, or Project Goodman working over here. So there's those, and they're making impact. I think there's also power in coming out of the silos and working together, but then that requires people to do, crazy, silly things like put their egos away.
No.
Betterment of the people, So God forbid that some of us do that. It will require a lot of that, I think, for us to be able to see widespread national change the way that we're not. And I think it's happening. I think, when I just wish it didn't take tragedy for it to happen. I wish it didn't take a George Floyd for Black people to realize, we can't afford to not be united, that we need to come together. I wish it didn't take a Breonna Taylor, because out of those moments, you do see strong national unity and movement, and laws that get changed and pressure that gets applied. But I think we just need to keep pushing and continue to look at those models like the Million Man Marches. Hey, this is what happens. This is what could happen when we do come together.
Yeah.
I think it's us uniting out of suffering has become a tradition.
Yeah.
And we need to start uniting out of potential.
Yeah.
I think if we can change our mindset from suffering to potential, we can move forward. But the only time we really want to come together is when something bad happens to us and now we have an enemy, or open enemy. But we need to really unite under the guise of potential. What can we be?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Just look how families are, though. When do you see your families for funerals? I mean, like, how many times do your family? So how can we expect everyone, our super family, to come together outside of tragedy when we literally, in our own homes, literally don't see our cousins unless somebody died or something like that? So tragedy does bring people together. That's no doubt. But like you said, we definitely need to get a mentality that, no, we don't need to wait for that to happen. Like, why do we even want a tragedy to happen for us to get together? And I think your organization is definitely moving into a good space where we don't have to have that tragedy for you guys to get together. So that's dope, Yeah. And I truly appreciate it and truly appreciate you for that.
Absolutely.
So what's your biggest goal for Project Goodman as we wrap this up? Where would you like to see this in 5 years from now?
5 years, definitely not. To be able to stand the organization up financially and fiscally strong enough where we have salaried staff, including myself, so that this can be my full-time work. I'm still, working my other job / calling as the minister of youth and young adults at the New Macedonia Baptist Church in Southeast. So still doing that work, but I want this to be able, to be my full-time piece, and for us to be able to provide the resources. I took one of my sons today, had a basketball game, and we went to this place, and it's a multi-use spot, two full courts, 2 practice courts. There's a boxing ring in the corner, a weight room over on the side. I'm like, this is dope. So now I'm thinking about real estate that has the Project Goodman logo on it.
Shout them out.
And what it means to have space again, because you can create, the ideological space, you can create safe space for young brothers, but we also need to be able to create physical space. And we know, sports is a great way, but not just sports though, because we understand, again, I wasn't a sports kid. So on the second floor of the building, on the bottom floor, let's have the stage, let's have the coffee house so that the poets can come and spit their bars at the coffee shop, and they can make their own coffee and make money and learn. So in 5 years, I want us to be fiscally astute enough to be able to stand up salaried staff, to be able to impact not only just the DMV, but the region, the larger region, hopefully moving into places like Pennsylvania, and in West Virginia. And so in places where Black men exist also, we know his brothers in PA, but his brothers in West Virginia too, who have different experiences than guys in DC,
Yeah.
Go grab some of these rural Black brothers who need the same things, whose experiences may be different, but they need the same things that, young brothers growing up in Southeast DC need too. So, yeah, that's the biggest thing for me. My board is actually meeting in about 30 minutes to start the conversation, to be able to say, how do we do this? Where do we fund it? And we have to fund it. Like there are folks in our village, in our community, who have the means to support their own. We're going to call them up. We're going to find them.
Speaking of that, the chat room wanted to know where can they donate? So
that was my next question. How do we get in contact with you and donate?
Yep. So www.projectgoodman.org. And there's a donate button, yellow donate button in the corner. If you're on a desktop or a laptop, yellow button in the corner. If you're on a mobile device, hit the menu button, look for the yellow donate button. You can also do Cash App at $ Project Goodman. And follow us on social media at all things Project Goodman. So follow us on social media.
Is that how they can get in contact if they wanted to be a part of the program? The young guys, or younger men, or men in general, wanted to be a part of it. They just go to the website as well, or the Facebook. Is it Facebook and IG, or are they all Project Goodman?
Yeah, all Project Goodman, Facebook, IG, and Twitter. And then again, projectgoodman.org. All of them have contact spaces, either the email address or the website is listed there. You can DM us, slide up in them DMs, let us know.
Show us that logo one more time.
Yes, you go. There you go. Look for
Project
Goodman. Yeah, so we definitely are open to folks who want to support the work, and financial donations definitely are needed. But we also need people. We're doing brand awareness, and we're building, building this brand. So we need people just to show love. A like is free. A share and a follow, that's free. Come along for the journey and watch, the experiences of these young men as they grow through this process.
Wow. Well, I'm definitely on, and you sold me. I just want to say thank you for all the work you're doing for us, for my people, my boys, my men, all that. I totally appreciate you. So thank you. Thank you for coming through, blessing our show. Hopefully we can have you back and you can give us a wonderful update, because you guys are going to do so many big things. And we have a couple of your boys with us just to get that communication thing going. So
yes, love it. I appreciate you all for having me today too.
No problem. Thank you for coming. We'll see you guys next week. Illogically Speaking, we are out.